You said before the call was shifted that you had not seen this email chain that's in the OPD before you wrote the letter to the Shadow Treasurer. Can I just be very clear then? That order of production of documents reveals that there was, in fact, a lower preliminary estimate of the Coalition's policy that was provided to the Treasurer's Chief of Staff, and that was lower than the final costing. Was Treasury asked to come up with a higher figure by the Treasurer's office?
You'll have to go to the relevant officials for that, but I think that was a costing for meals, not meals and entertainment. I'm not certain of that, so you just have to check the documents you have in front of you. But that's because we did do separate costings for meals and then for meals and entertainment. From memory, the meals one was around 500 and the other 1.5. Sorry, you'll have the documents in front of you. I'll just point out one other thing with that costing. That was not a year-by-year costing. It's an accrual costing of the mature cost of the policy as well. So just to point out what I presume would be a difference with a PBO costing that's costed your policy specifically, we haven't said this is what it costs in the first year, the second year, the third year and subsequently. It's, if you like, the first preliminary run of what the cost would be on an accrual basis. But just to clarify that for you at the same time. So the order of production of documents shows language that says we can round it up. Will get us close to $1 billion. So I again ask you, was Treasury asked to come up with a higher figure by the Treasurer's office? No, my official... Well, I'm not aware. You can check with them, but I'm certainly in my investigations not aware they were asked to do that. I would, of course, be very concerned if they did, but I have every confidence they did not.
You could just release the costings that you've had
done.
Well,
we've released the order of production of documents instead.
With your...
Sorry,
with your
just let me ask the Treasurer, the Secretary, some questions, because I don't have him for very long. Is it usual practice for Treasury costings to rely on LinkedIn articles or data sourced from overseas with very, very different taxation arrangements, or data sourced that was 8 years old from 2017?
To be clear...
Or this is...
Oh, sorry, Senator.
Sorry, noting this is all the same source.
Senator, we were asked to do a costing in just the time available. As was indicated on the email that was sent, it was draft. We did the best in the time we had. We were explicit about the sources. As I just said to you, in the sense of a costing being finalised from year to year, we were not asked to do that. We were simply asked to cost in broad terms where it's at. You have the documents in front of you. That's what we did in the time available.
You said in the time available. Why was it so urgent? Was it going to ERC?
It wasn't, as far as I'm aware, it wasn't going to ERC. It was an engagement with the Treasurer's office and they asked for the numbers.
Urgently?
I don't know whether urgent appears in the email. They asked for the numbers over that time period.
So could you please get back to me by Friday morning?
When we get asked to do things, we get asked to do a lot of things quickly and we do our best to do them.
So the order for production of documents reveals that Treasury appears to have contacted 3 independent agencies to work on this costing. So in what context was Treasury communicating with the PBO? The order of production of documents says, worked sharing this with John Clark, who's the Assistant Parliamentary Budget Officer. With the ATO, it says, thoughts from Julia Neville, Assistant ATO Commissioner, re our approach. And from New Zealand officials. I am going to reach out to one of the New Zealand contacts. Why would they do all of those?
Well, Treasury was providing advice to the
I think
Treasurer.
that's really unremarkable, Senator. We're asked to do something in a short period of time. We'd
but
reach
you have
out
the parameters. Why do you need that?
We'd reach out to known experts to understand and to get some feedback on whether our approach seemed reasonable. When you don't have long to do it, one of the ways to ameliorate risks is to ask others to review what you were doing. I think it would be more remarkable if we hadn't reached out to people to ask them for review whether we were taking a reasonable approach in costing a request from the government.
The OPD also says this costing is of low reliability. Now, did you reinforce this to the Treasurer?
That's in the documents that were provided to the Treasurer's office.
So you did reinforce to the Treasurer that these costings were of low reliability?
I didn't talk directly to the Treasurer about the costing, but the officials who sent the documents through to his office, it's in the documents in front of you, were very clear. It's of low reliability. Sometimes our costings are of low reliability because of the data available and the number of assumptions we had to make. I think we've been very transparent.
That wasn't
in
any
the
of the
documents.
press releases.
Well, neither was your costing.
So the order of production of documents
I mean, this is the
identified that
elephant
the
in the
bulk
room,
of the
isn't
work
it?
occurred over the
Let's
weekend.
just flush that out.
What overtime arrangements do you have in Treasury for weekend work?
People work hard in Treasury.
For senior officials, we tend to just work as required. For APS staff and EL staff, we have arrangements. I don't know whether overtime was asked for that weekend, but I can get that confirmed either by
If you could, we'd like to know exactly how much of taxpayers' money was claimed in overtime at Treasury for working on a coalition policy.
Well, that's not what happened, and you've had that
Would you
evidence.
further consider...
Well, sorry, no. Those little asides, no. That is not the evidence that has been given here today. So just for the record, Treasury costed a request from the Treasurer's office of a policy with certain parameters.
Would you consider having the Australian Public Service Commission investigate this further?
Why don't you just release your costings so everybody can actually see what's going on instead of this?
There's a lot of defence of I'd be embarrassed if it was my policy.
Yeah, look, if she's going to jump in, I'm going to jump in all day too. So
Is there a
it could be
problem
a very
with having
long
the
day.
Australian Public Service Commissioner investigate this?
I did bring to the attention of my colleague the Public Service Commission obviously the issue, and I think I'll have to confirm this, provided him with a copy of the letter I provided to the Shadow Treasurer. It's a matter for him if he wishes to investigate me or the department more broadly. I'll leave that with him. I'm very happy you tabled. I'm sorry, very comfortable, not necessarily, that you tabled the letter today. I hadn't put it on the website because I hadn't engaged with the Shadow Treasurer about whether he would have concerns about me making the letter public, but that's now you've done that. That's also done.
And
So
I would.
I'm just
sorry if I can.
concerned that
If
there
I
was-
can add to that answer, which I am allowed to do, I would remind Senator Hume of the advice from Mr. Gaetjens around.
We've heard that advice.
exactly
I
the
want to
same
ask the Secretary some
circumstance,
questions.
and I.
This is absolutely time wasted. I really have only a few
Senator
minutes.
Hume,
No.
Senator Hume, what is taking more time is when opposition senators are talking over the answers that are given. And when you do that, I will intervene in this way, and that will cost you more time.
Just let
The
me ask
minister
the
is
Secretary a
answering. The minister is answering as she is entitled to do.
She's not entitled to filibuster,
The
though.
minister.
Well, I think it's hardly a filibuster to promptly put on the record that in the advice from Mr. Gaetjens in 2019 around a situation of almost identical concern raised from a member of the
We've heard
opposition,
this.
there was not further investigation of that.
Secretary, I know that this is uncomfortable because the Treasurer has put you in an invidious position, but given his repeated referral to this policy, to this costing as opposition policy, and he did it as recently as last Friday, can we please get an undertaking from you whether you have spoken to the Treasurer about how he is politicising your job and putting you in a terrible position? He did it last Friday.
I haven't spoken to the Treasurer about the issue, Senator.
You haven't said to him, it is very uncomfortable
Said no.
when you say
He said no.
Can you stop?
Treasury
He said no.
has costed opposition policy.
Well, and this is orderly. She's verballing the Treasurer, which is absolutely out of order, and she's continuing to ask the same question over and over.
Okay.
If we need to
All right.
have a discussion, this is inappropriate.
Thank you for all the interjections inviting me to maintain order. Senator Hume,
Thank
Senator
you.
Hume.
The Treasurer has repeatedly said that he asked Treasury to cost opposition policy. Even when it became clear that you had written to the Shadow Treasurer to say that that wasn't so, the Treasurer repeated it.
Treasurer's remarks are a matter for him, Senator.